Where the Tortoise clan was founded through backroom deals, the next minor clan was founded on an attempt at public humiliation and disgrace, the Sparrow clan. The Sparrow was founded in 400, and their story begins quite literally with a diplomatic faux pas. Doji Onegano was a prominent and wealthy member of the Crane clan. He was mostly known for having incredible diplomatic skills, but also being something of a miser, hoarding his wealth and demanding high taxes from his peasants. In stark contrast to Onegano was his son and heir Doji Suzume, an earnest young lad devoted to the philosophy of Shinsei and utterly tactless, often saying the first thing that popped into his head without any thought for the consequences. Despite this obvious deficiency, especially for a clan famed for its courtiers, Onegano often took Suzume with him on diplomatic missions, hoping that the experience might rub off on the boy. This turned out to be a bad idea. In the year 400, the Crane-Crab War had just come to an end, with the Yasuki family defecting from the former Great Clan to the latter. Both Onegano and Suzume were involved in the peace talks that ended the conflict, and during the negotiations, Suzume, in his typical thoughtless manner, spoke at length about his interpretation of certain passages of the Tao of Shinsei, an interpretation that essentially boiled down to a truly virtuous man should live a humble life and renounce all earthly wealth. The Crane clan just so happens to be the wealthiest of all the clans of Rokugan, thanks to its near monopoly of coastal trade and having some of the best farmland in the empire. Most Cranes view this prosperity as a sign of prestige, so you can imagine that Suzume's comments did not go over well with the upper echelons of the clan. Even so, the whole affair might have been simply brushed aside if it weren't for the fact that hundreds of Crane peasants heard and approved of Suzume's words and began making demonstrations of support for the young man and his immediate family. This outraged the Crane clan champion Doji Raigu, who became convinced that this was a deliberate ploy by Onegano to gain support among the commoners and undermine his authority. Onegano's protestations to the contrary fell upon deaf ears, and the clan champion declared that if he thought so little of the clan and its wealth, then maybe he should go off somewhere else so that he can live out his philosophy of humble poverty. So saying, he expelled Onegano, his family, and retainers from the Crane clan. Utterly mortified by this fall from grace, Onegano immediately retired as head of his family and entered a monastery, leaving leadership to Suzume. Suzume, for all his philosophy, was not a very intelligent young man, and so often relied on advice and guidance from his aunt Masako, who shared many of his ideals. With this humble philosophy in mind, they chose the sparrow, the most unassuming of birds, to be their symbol, and after the emperor confirmed their creation as the Sparrow clan, settled down in a particularly unhospitable stretch of rocky highlands later named the Suzume Hills, after the clan's founder and the name of its ruling family. When the clan was founded, the imperial chancellor at the time, who I suspect was part of the Crane clan but I have found no evidence to prove one way or the other, proclaimed that the Sparrow clan's sacred duty should be the overseeing and protection of the Golden Sun Plain, which happened to be right next door to the Suzume Hills. In stark contrast to the barren hills, the Golden Sun Plain is one of the most beautiful and fertile lands in the empire. Its name comes from the gorgeous golden hue that its plains take on when the sun is setting. The land is so picturesquely beautiful, in fact, that it was placed under the direct protection of the imperial throne by Emperor Genji early on in the empire's history. And that was the entire point, giving the Sparrow clan a superfluous duty as a subtle but deliberate insult. However, Suzume and his followers took this in stride, and have maintained their watch over the plain to this day. Though they are a warrior clan, the Sparrow are most often known for their long-winded storytellers. In keeping with their founding philosophy of honorable poverty, the samurai of the clan do not put on any sort of airs and will often work the lands of the hills shoulder to shoulder with their peasants. As such, the Sparrow clan domain is more like a small town community where everybody knows everybody and the neighbors always get along. Where the Sparrow clan was very much founded in opposition to its forebears' principles, The Badger clan is very much a minor clan cast in the mold of its progenitor. The Badger were among the earliest of the minor clans, founded in 110 during the reign of Emperor Genji. Although he had given the former Kirin clan lands to the Lion clan, following the relocation of what would eventually become the Fox clan, the emperor was concerned that the Lion, unfamiliar with the steppe country that the Kirin clan had claimed, would have trouble defending the northwestern border of the empire. Thus, taking inspiration from the recent creation of the Fox clan, the emperor announced a tournament. The winner would be granted a minor clan of his own and the duty of defending the mountain passes that separated the empire from the burning sands. Because the emperor believed that a strong clan was necessary for such a duty, the tournament was ultimately a wrestling contest. Like all tournaments, it ultimately came down to two men, a powerful crab samurai named Hida Domogu, and a member of the newly created Fox clan, Kitsune Mako. When Domogu ultimately won the final round, the emperor bestowed upon him the surname Ichiro and gave him the right to found a minor clan that he chose to call the Badger clan. Mako became his lieutenant, and the leader of the newly founded Badger clan took his followers into the mountains on the northwestern edge of the empire. There, Domogu oversaw the design and construction of Shiro Ichiro, a castle so formidable that members of the Kaiyu family, themselves the empire's foremost siege experts, would often come visit the castle to study its fortifications. Unbeknownst to all but a few, it was later revealed that Shiro Ichiro had been built atop the very site where once lay the body of Ryoshun, the 10th kami, the one that had died before his brother, the first Hante, had freed him and his siblings from the belly of their father, the Lord Moon. It was said that a great sadness emanated from the kami's resting place, infusing the land and the people. Being originally founded by crab samurai, the Badger clan was already a stoic bunch. Under the influence of the grave's aura, they became remarkably quiet and reclusive. They almost never ventured beyond the mountains they had been set to guard. As a result, their existence was often all but forgotten by the rest of the empire. The next minor clan is a particularly unique one, because where all the other minor clans were founded by single individuals, the Dragonfly clan was founded by two. First, there was Mirumoto Asijin. Initially, his story reads as a fairly generic one. Born to the Mirumoto family, he obviously trained and grew up to become a master swordsman. He eventually rose to become one of the chief retainers of his family's daimyo, married and tried to start a family. But then Asijin's life took a turn for the abysmally tragic. His wife died giving birth to their first child, and the child died shortly thereafter. Racked by inconsolable grief, Asijin presented himself to his daimyo and lord, Mirumoto Tomo, and begged to be allowed to commit seppuku and thus put himself out of his misery. But Lord Tomo refused him. Then, when Asijin asked if he could at least be allowed to retire and enter a monastery, the Lord knows the Dragon Clan has no shortage of those, again his lord denied him. Lord Tomo explained that he had received visions that one day Asijin would fulfill a great destiny for both himself and the Dragon Clan. Widower that he now may have been, Asijin was nothing if not loyal to his lord's commands, and so there was nothing he could do but try to live with his grief. Then, years later in the 690s, the second major player entered onto the scene. Her name was Isawa Mariko, a talented shugenja of the Phoenix clan and a personal student of Isawa Ejuko, who then sat on the Isawa Elemental Council as the Master of Water. The only other known detail about her early life was that when she was very young, she was betrothed to Okodo Yokutsu, a samurai of the Lion clan. Then, at some point between the years 692 and 693, there's no exact date, Mariko was sent over to live among the Dragon Clan and study their ways. This was likely part of a diplomatic effort by the Phoenix Clan to strengthen ties with their westward neighbor. Part of this involved the Phoenix Clan requesting that the Dragon Clan provide Mariko with a yojimbo, or personal bodyguard. The Dragon Clan accepted these terms, and the bereaved Mirumoto Asijin was chosen for the role. I think you can all clearly see where this is going. It didn't take long before the relationship between Asijin and Mariko evolved far beyond that of a protector and his charge. Asajin found that simply being with Morocco helped ease the pain of his loss. As for Morocco herself, she came to admire Asajin's strength and willingness to carry on and serve his clan despite his grief. Of course, Asajin knew that Morocco was destined to marry another man. Once he realized he was in love with her, he also realized that he could not bear to lose another woman he loved. He confessed his feelings to Lord Tomo and once more begged to be allowed to commit seppuku. But again, Lord Tomo refused him. "Fate whispers in your ear," the Mirumoto daimyo said to him. "Do not ignore what it says." Eventually, Asajin and Morocco decided that, regardless of whether their clans or their families approved, they intended to marry. That said, Mirumoto Asajin was an honorable samurai to the bone. He and his new fiancée would not simply sneak off into the night like thieves. Having resolved to be together, the couple presented themselves to the lord of the Mirumoto family, and Asajin requested that he be relieved of his duties. To his surprise, Lord Tomo actually said yes for once, and gave the couple his blessing. The pair received an equally favorable response when they journeyed to Phoenix Lands and presented themselves to Morocco's mentor, the Master of Water Isawa Ejuko. At first, this story seemed like it would have a fairy tale ending. The happy couple and their respective retainers settled in a small plot of land just south of the Dragon Mountains and built a modest castle. Asajin established a swordsmanship school, Morocco set up a Shugenja school, and in the year 694, the happy couple welcomed into the world their son, Kuyuden. But there was still the matter of Akodo Yokutsu, Morocco's original fiancé. While Morocco had never loved Yokutsu, he very much loved her. So when he heard of her marriage to Asajin, he took it not only as a stain against his honor and that of the Lion Clan, but also as a personal betrayal. And so, with an army of 5,000 lion samurai at his back, Akodo Yokotsu marched north and laid siege to the castle of Kyuden Tonbo. The castle itself had no fortifications, but Morocco and the Shugenja that had decided to go with her and Asajin managed to barely hold off the lion army with their magic for the first day of fighting. On the following dawn, the Lion Clan army awoke to find itself flanked by two new armies, one from the Dragon Clan and one from the Phoenix Clan. Yokotsu attempted to retreat, only to find his army's southern route blocked by a force of Shugenja from both great clans. Thus surrounded, Yokotsu had no choice but to negotiate. The peace talks eventually ended with the Lion General swearing a solemn vow never to harass Morocco and Asajin again. The Emperor was so impressed by the support the couple had managed to acquire, as well as the fact that the Dragon Clan of all great clans had actually bestirred itself to war on their behalf, that he decided to grant Asajin and Morocco and their followers the right to make themselves a minor clan. Asajin and Morocco then changed their surname to Tonbo and chose as their new clan's symbol the Dragonfly. Unfortunately, the origin story of the Dragonfly clan doesn't quite end here. Akodo Yokotsu was still bitter and angry over his defeat and humiliation. But because of his vow, and because the great clans were legally forbidden from making war upon minor clans, it seemed that there was nothing he could do. But then, 7 years later, in the year 711, an opportunity presented itself. One day, while attending the imperial court, Yokotsu found himself on the receiving end of a pretty nasty insult from a member of the Dragon Clan's Agasha family. The exact nature of the insult was never specified, but it's not exactly an unbelievable situation. After all, the Lion Clan is particularly prickly about honor, and the Dragon Clan aren't exactly known for their people skills. At any event, he used this as a pretext to launch an attack on the Dragon Clan. In order to help justify the attack, an incredibly talented young bard named Ikoma Tanshi made an impassioned speech to the Emperor, doing his level best to paint the Dragon Clan and Asajin in as negative a light as possible. Thus persuaded, the Emperor declared Asajin and Morocco's marriage invalid and decreed that either Morocco would divorce her husband and marry Yokotsu or commit suicide, thus alleviating the stain on her clan's honor. Yokotsu did try to convince the emperor to rescind that last part, as he didn't want Morocco to die, but the emperor refused to budge. Once more, a 5,000-strong lion army marched north. To his credit, Akodo Yokotsu was a man of his word. He had vowed never to harass Asajin and Morocco again, and as he led the lion army north, he scrupulously went all the way around the Dragonfly clan territory to get at the Dragon clan, thus honoring his promise. Of course, the Mirumoto family, the military arm of the Dragon clan, mobilized to oppose the lion incursion, and the two forces met at the mountain fortress of Shiro Agasha for what became known as the Battle of the Great Climb. The Mirumoto, of course, had the home field advantage, for they were well accustomed to fighting on the sheer cliffs of Dragon Land. But Yokotsu was an Akodo of the Lion Clan, the greatest military minds in all of the Emerald Empire. And in preparation for the fight, he had drilled his men rigorously on methods of countering the tactics of the Dragon Clan. The battle went decisively the Lion Clan's way, and the Mirumoto army was forced to withdraw behind the walls of Shiro Agasha. The Lion army laid siege to Shiro Agasha for 5 days. At last, knowing that he had his exhausted enemy right where he wanted them, Yokotsu came forward to make his demands. He said he would lift the siege on condition that he be allowed to face the Dragon Clan's former vassal, Tonbo Asajin, in a duel to the death. Whichever one of them died, honor would at last be satisfied. Togashi Ayoko, champion of the Dragon Clan, accepted the terms and summoned Asajin. Of course, both men knew the real reason why Yokotsu had done what he'd done, and Lord Ayoko was not pleased at having to be dragged into a war with the Lion Clan over what was ultimately a personal feud, and said as much to Asajin, quote, "Your folly has gone far enough. It is time for you to pay for the breach you have caused us with the Akodo family. You will duel Akodo Yokotsu, and you will allow him to win. Your honor will be preserved, and Yokotsu will be satisfied with his revenge." Asajin responded as follows, "Ayoko-sama, I will do this to restore the honor of my family, the Mirumoto, and the Dragon Clan, our benefactor. But I beseech you to promise me that forevermore the Dragonfly clan will have the allegiance and protection of the Dragon Clan. For these things I will gladly give my life." Ayoko accepted these terms, and so when the two men faced one another, Asajin did not even draw his sword as Yokotsu cut him down. Flushed with triumph, Yokotsu declared himself the new Dragonfly clan champion and full intention to marry the now widowed Morocco. Barely had the lion warrior finished this declaration when a newcomer stepped forward and challenged him to a second duel. Tonbo Kuyuden, the 17-year-old son of Asajin and Morocco. Yokotsu was of course familiar with the sword techniques of the Mirumoto family, and was confident of a second victory. But remember, the Dragonfly clan wasn't just founded by members of the Dragon Clan, but also by members of the Phoenix clan. Kuyuden had not only been schooled from an early age in the dual-wielding Niten style of his Mirumoto father, but he'd also been trained in the more defensive Yojimbo techniques favored by the Shiba family, the swordsmen of the Phoenix clan. The duel ended. Akodo Yokotsu fell. The leaderless lion army retreated from Dragon Lands, and Tonbo Kuyuden departed the Ring of Honor, the avenger of his father and the new Dragonfly clan champion. The Dragonfly are the rare case of a minor clan that is known for two separate specializations, their swordsmen and their shugenja. The style of Dragonfly Samurai is a combination of the Mirumoto Niten style and the aforementioned style of the Shiba family, while the clan's shugenja combine the sheer magical prowess of the Isawa family with the eccentric and unorthodox theories and practices of the Agasha family. Togashi Ayoko, and every Dragon Clan champion that followed him, honored the secret promise he'd made with Asajin, and ever since, the Dragon Clan have acted as the guarantors and protectors of the Dragonfly clan. In return, the Dragonfly clan evolved into the role of emissaries and intermediaries for their reclusive northern neighbors. From that day onward, anyone who wished to go to the Dragon Clan lands on diplomatic business had to go through the Dragonfly clan first. All this time, I've been telling stories of clans founded by samurai from official clans and families, even though I did say in part 1 that minor clans were also founded by ronin, samurai with neither master nor clan or family of their own. So let's start with the first of the two that were founded in such circumstances prior to the clan wars, the Hare clan. Reichin was born the third son of a Yasuki merchant, but his talents leaned more towards the martial than the mercantile, and after his coming-of-age ceremony, he served as a guard for his father's merchant caravan. Unfortunately, Reichin's swordsmanship could not compensate for the fact that he was hopelessly addicted to the twin vices of drink and gambling, and he was ultimately disowned by his father, expelled from the Yasuki family and from the Crab clan, when the latter habit put him hopelessly in debt, a shameful state of affairs for any samurai, and triply so for a son of the Yasuki, a family whose reputation is built on being good with money. Now a ronin with neither lord, clan, or family name, Reichin eventually settled down in the city of Ryoko Owari Toshi, or Journey's End City, a city governed by the Scorpion clan's Shosuro family. There he managed to eke out a living by gambling and petty theft, but also by selling information to the local magistrates. This last meant that he was actually on good terms with the local leaders of Ryoko Owari. Doubtless his life would have continued on in this vein, but then came the year 750, the year that saw the second rising of the dreaded and infamous Mahotsukai Iyuchiban the Blood Speaker. Now, the character of Iyuchiban and his many attempts to try and take over the empire are very much the subject of a future video series, so I'm mostly going to do my best here to try and tiptoe around any spoilers. To put it simply, Iyuchiban is basically the ultimate evil sorcerer of Legend of the Five Rings. You might say he's the love child of Voldemort from Harry Potter and David Lopan from Big Trouble in Little China. If it weren't for literal god-tier villains like Fu Lang, Kali Ma, or the Lying Darkness, this guy would be the setting's ultimate big bad. So, as I desperately try to avoid spoiling any future videos, Reichin's involvement in the second rising of Iyuchiban is as follows. First, when the evil sorcerer and his minions raised an army of the undead, Reichin was the first to spot the horde of zombies and warn Ryoko Owari. Though the city ultimately fell before the Blood Speaker's forces, Reichin fought valiantly in its defense alongside the Scorpion clan. He was present at least two key battles between Iyuchiban and the forces of the Empire, the Battle of the Bloody Retreat and the Battle of Sleeping River. Finally, when the armies of the Empire sought to liberate the city of Ryoko Owari from the Blood Speaker's minions, Reichin not only volunteered for the seemingly suicidal mission to sabotage the enemy's defenses and survived, but in the final battle, he suffered an arrow wound while saving the life of Doji Daisetsu, the serving Emerald Champion. For these many meritorious services to Rokugan, Emperor Hantei XI elevated Reichin to the rank of daimyo, the right to create his own minor clan, and a small patch of prime real estate at the edge of Scorpion Lands, nestled between the World's Edge Mountains, the fringe of Shimen no Mori Forest, and the west bank of the River of Gold. Reichin decided to call his new clan the Hare clan, and for a family name chose Usagi, a name that I think needs no translation, especially if you've read Stan Sakai or are in any way familiar with the Ninja Turtles mythos. The Hare clan has always been a warrior clan, and given the circumstances of its founding, it's perhaps unsurprising that its warriors are especially trained in hunting down and killing evil magic users. The other minor clan that was founded by a ronin prior to the clan war is the Falcon clan. The story of the Falcon began in the year 834, when a lowly peasant spearman named Hayabusa saved the life of the emperor from what was originally thought to be a ninja assassin, but was later revealed to be a maddened peasant. Alas, Hayabusa died in defense of his emperor, and thus was in no position to benefit from imperial gratitude. But he did have 3 sons who could. And so, upon the eldest son, Yotogi, the emperor bestowed the rank of daimyo and the right to found his minor clan. Yotogi ultimately chose the name Toritaka to be his family name, and the falcon as his clan crest. Upon the new clan, the emperor bestowed the land surrounding Tani Hitokage, the Valley of Spirits, nestled in between the southwesternmost edge of the great forest of Shinomen Mori and the Twilight Mountains, which marks the westernmost end of the empire's southern border. Toritaka Yotogi's first act as daimyo was to investigate the circumstances that had led to the attempt on the emperor's life. After much study and inquiry, he made a startling discovery. The insane peasant that had tried to kill the emperor and had cost his father his life had done so because he had been possessed by an evil spirit. From this revelation, Toritaka Yotogi declared the raison d'etre of the Falcon clan. They were to study and seek to understand ghosts and other supernatural phenomenon and use this knowledge to develop means of counteracting them. Funnily enough, despite this obsession with ghosts and other spirits, the Falcon clan were never a Shugenja family. They were and always remained a purely martial clan. And yet, thanks in part to their proximity to the great forest of Shimen no Mori, which is known to be haunted, their knowledge of ghosts and other supernatural beings is almost unparalleled, and they would often exchange information with the Crab Clan's Kuni family, another lineage with a vested interest in understanding unnatural threats to the Empire. Alright, we are now in the final stretch, only 2 more minor clans to go. Appropriately, the next one are literally next-door neighbors of the Falcon clan, for directly south of Falcon Land, in the aforementioned Twilight Mountains, lives the Boar clan. The Twilight Mountains constitute at least half of the southern border between the Crab clan and the Shadowlands, and they are mostly known for 2 things: rich deposits of iron and jade, the latter of which is especially valuable to the crab thanks to its resistance to the taint. One day in the year 383, a small group of explorers from the Crab clan went into the Twilight Mountains and were never seen again for 60 years. The crab warriors found themselves trapped in an in-between place, a prison that lay between the living and spirit worlds. And of course, being crab samurai, with all the stubbornness and determination that that entails, spent the next 60 years struggling to find a way of escape. At last, the leader of their descendants, one Hida Heiichi, discovered the being responsible for their imprisonment and confronted it. It was a powerful spirit calling itself the Shakoki Dogu. For many millennia, it had slept peacefully beneath the roots of the mountains. But then, on the Day of Thunder, something had come into the Twilight Mountains and died there. It was the first Oni, the first malevolent spirit monster created by the dark god Fu Lang himself, and which had been mortally wounded by Shiba, founder of the Phoenix clan, on that fateful day. A being that powerful and malevolent does not die quietly, or without leaving behind something of itself. When the first Oni had finally expired in the midst of the Twilight Mountains, its tainted blood had soaked into the soil and awakened the Shakoki Dogu. Its solemn duty was to guard the Twilight Mountains and contain the taint of the first Oni. With its blood soaked into the very soil, the great monster might yet find a way to return and wreak havoc upon the mortal plane. It was this terrible eventuality that the Shakoki Dogu guarded against. But even an immortal spirit grows lonely, and when the ancestors of Hida Heiichi had wandered into the Twilight Mountains, it had taken them simply to have companionship. It had meant them no harm, but the Shakoki Dogu does not understand humans and how they think and behave. Eventually, Heiichi came to an understanding with the guardian spirit. If it released them from their pseudo-spirit world prison, Heiichi promised that he and his followers would live in the Twilight Mountains and help the Shakoki Dogu defend them, thus sharing its lonely vigil. The spirit agreed, and thus, 60 years after their ancestors had departed from the mortal plane, Hida Heiichi and his followers returned to the Empire. Their first act upon returning was of course to inform others of what had happened to them, and to send the Emperor 3 tons worth of iron and jade, which Heiichi called back taxes. After all, they hadn't exactly been paying their dues to the imperial throne while trapped in the realm of the Shakoki Dogu. Of course, the Crab clan offered to take Heiichi and his followers back into the fold, But Heiichi, mindful of his vow, refused. The emperor was so impressed by their stories and the massive tribute they sent him that he decided to bestow upon Heiichi and his followers the status of a minor clan. Thus, the Boar clan and its ruling family, the Heiichi, were born. The duty of the Boar clan, as per Heiichi's vow to the Shikoki Dogu and as per the instructions of the emperor, have always been to guard the Twilight Mountains, especially the valuable mines of iron and jade. A warrior clan, the Boar are obviously what you would expect from a clan descended from the crab: strong, stoic, and determined. And so we come at last to the final minor clan, the Snake. Born in the early 300s, Isawa Chuda was a bright young boy who one day aspired to sit on the Council of Elemental Masters. But then his father, Isawa Teruzumi, died, and Chuda's life changed forever. His mother, Isawa Ashiko, did not live very long after Chuda underwent his Genpuku coming-of-age ceremony. And later, while going through his late father's effects, Chuda discovered records of Teruzumi's research, and discovered to his horror that his father had been dabbling in maho, essentially black magic. In his final accounts, Teruzumi had believed that the authorities within the Phoenix clan were onto him and had been planning to fake his own death so that he could go into hiding and continue his work. But he had been hunted down and killed for real by agents of the Phoenix clan as a way of eliminating the threat while also preserving his family and clan's good name. After all, no one wants to admit that your family produced the Japanese equivalent of an evil D&D wizard. Appalled that his father had been neck-deep in the darkest magics, Isawa Chuda vowed on the spot that from this day forward he would be the enemy of all evil magic users, or Maho Tsukai. And while he did go on to become a powerful Shugenja, his career path had changed from one of spell slinging for its own sake to one of law, and eventually he rose to the rank of Emerald Magistrate. Now, magistrates are essentially the people that enforced law and justice back in the days before things like police forces and legal advocates. They were essentially a police chief, a district attorney, and a judge all rolled into one. Plus, whereas today, when a trial happens, you go to court, back in the olden days, the court, in the form of the magistrate, came to you. Terms like circuit courts derived from the fact that back in the day, magistrates, and often their retinues, would travel around their designated province or district in judicial circuits, visiting local communities, hearing cases, dispensing justice, and ensuring that law and order was maintained. In Legend of the Five Rings, the Emerald Magistrates are essentially the chief law enforcement officials of the Empire, second only to the Emperor himself. One day, while pursuing one of the hated Maho Tsukai through the forest of Shinomen Mori, Chuda stumbled upon the ruins of an ancient pre-human temple. Chuda could not decipher the language carved into the walls, and the serpentine motifs made no sense to him. And yet he was struck by a great sense of purity and serenity, a feeling that he would carry with him to the end of his days. 4 years later, in the year 339, while investigating yet another Maho cult, Chuda discovered evidence that one of his fellow Emerald Magistrates had been corrupted by the cult and was seeking to assassinate the Emperor. Chuda managed to reach the court in time to foil the assassination plot and suffered grievous wounds in defense of his imperial master. In gratitude for Chuda's heroic act and his decades of service to the Empire, the Emperor granted him the right to create his own minor clan. Shortly thereafter, Chuda took to wife a Shugenja of the Crab clan named Kuni Reiko, and when their son was born, bestowed upon him the name Chuda Yoharu. He went on to name his new minor clan the Snake Clan, inspired by the ancient serpent-covered temple ruin he had discovered back in Shinomen Mori. Publicly, though, he declared that the reasoning for this choice was that he considered himself the Emperor's serpent, creeping into the hidden places and striking down the enemies of the Empire. The Snake Clan settled down in Heigen Ryo Kokoro, or Dragon Heart Plain, a stretch of grassland nestled between the mountainous territory of the Dragon Clan and the forests of the Phoenix Clan. Like its founder, the Snake Clan was a Shugenja clan, dedicated specifically to the study of Maho and devising ways and means of hunting down and destroying those who use it. And those are all the minor clans that were founded prior to the clan wars in Legend of the Five Rings. I'd like to close by thanking all the viewers and subscribers that kinda helped make this possible, as apparently I'm the only channel that does this deep of a dive into the lore of Rokugan. And thanks to you, they're the second most popular videos I've ever made, the most popular ones being my Dune videos. In my next round of videos, I'll be returning to Star Wars Should This Be Canon with the Knight Errant series. In the meantime, I've got polls on Patreon and Subscribestar, where you can vote on what kind of lore videos I do next. But essentially, with the Minor Clan Omnibus complete, I've essentially introduced all of the key players in Rokugan prior to the Clan Wars, which means that the next time I return to Legend of the Five Rings, I can truly begin the story of the history of the Emerald Empire. Until then.